Digital Marketing Radio, episode 102. Are keywords dying in search engine advertising?
DigitalMarketingRadio.com.
I'm David Bain, and this is Digital Marketing Radio, weekly interviews with digital marketing experts. Find out about everything we do at DigitalMarketingRadio.com.
The big interview with David Bain.
Today I'm joined by David Rodnitzky. David, welcome to DMR.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining me. Well, David's been in the digital marketing industry for quite a while, and I had a look back in October 2014. He wrote an article called "Preparing for a Keyword-Less SEM World," and that really piqued my interest. So, on the face of it, that seems like an incredible thing to say, but of course, Google's advertising opportunities extend now much more than just pay-per-click ads beside search engine results. But David, I mean, what made you say Google are actually killing keywords?
Yeah, so I've been in search engine marketing since about 2000, which actually is longer than Google, amazingly. In the early days of search engine marketing, the keyword was king. The goal was really whoever buys the most keywords wins. So I remember more than 10 years ago, I was working for a company that did mortgage fulfillment online. And I would go to the US Census Bureau and I would get a list of every city in the United States. At that time, there were approximately 21,000 cities. And I would just append to that words like refinance, mortgage rates, home loan, and upload those en masse. And I was loading 100,000 keywords a day. And because I was the only one who had come up with some strange combination of a small city in a rural America, and the word home loans, I was showing up and I was getting that click for pennies. And if you think about that experience, from Google's perspective, that is not a good way for them to monetize their search results, because if I'm the only one who came up with this obscure term, they're getting no competitive bidding. So imagine what would happen is if instead of me being the only person to buy that keyword, Google was able to match other people to that keyword. And that's really what Google's been doing over the last, in my opinion, at least 5 years. And that's where we're going from the currency of search engine marketing being keywords to being something else. So I'll give you a couple examples. In the case I just mentioned, instead of me being the only one on that term now, Google is starting to infer the location that a searcher is in. So even if I bought the word New York City mortgage rate and someone else bought the word mortgage rate, if the user's in New York City, they're going to get shown on that ad. Similarly, Google has started to do something called, I believe it's called close match variant, which means that even if I didn't buy the word mortgage rate spelled wrong and I bought it on exact match, Google will start showing my ad on that term. Similarly, Google now has something called PLAs, product listing ads, which are no longer keyword based at all, but are based on a feed that an advertiser uploads. So if I'm selling a Nikon camera, I no longer have to decide if I'm going to buy the word Nikon camera, best Nikon camera, green Nikon camera. I simply upload my feed to Google, and Google, with their best analysis, will show me on the keywords that they think are most appropriate. They have something else called dynamic search ads, in which the advertiser doesn't even choose keywords at all. They simply enter the URL, and Google determines the appropriate ad text and the appropriate places for the advertiser to show up. I've got numerous other examples where this is happening, but at the end of the day, what Google's doing is they're changing from a world where it used to be, we want the advertiser to find the right keywords, and we assume that advertisers are smart and they'll figure out the right keywords, to don't worry about the keywords, don't worry about where you're showing up, just give us your feed or give us your URL. Let us figure out what the best place is for you. Now, in some cases, for advertisers who maybe are not as savvy and are just getting into the online marketing game, this is a great boon for them, because it's complicated. This is complicated stuff. And if you just let Google do it for you, they can get you a lot of traffic very quickly. For advertisers who are more advanced, who like to just have control, Google has taken away some functionality and they've made the auctions more competitive. So, you know, I no longer have that ability to buy that word, let's say, Greenwich small business loan. Now, anyone who's selling small businesses loans within 50 miles of Greenwich is going to get matched automatically. So that's what I mean. I mean, we're getting to a point now where the keyword is no longer the most relevant thing. The most relevant thing is, frankly, your landing page and how you bid and the various targeting functionality that you can apply on top of your advertising campaign.
I mean, that's good, obviously, for Google. Google will probably make more money from that. Google will argue that it's good for the user and that it's delivering more results for them. And they'll also argue that it's good for the advertiser because it's easier to use their system. But as you alluded to, if an advertiser signs up and they don't really know what they're doing, and perhaps they've got limited budget, then maybe quickly they can find themselves spending a lot of money. So is that not a bit of an issue and something that businesses have to be concerned about?
I think it's something that people have to be concerned about for sure. I think I feel like Google is torn between servicing small businesses and servicing experienced large advertisers, and they are constantly coming up with products that work for one and probably don't work for the other. They certainly have a vested interest in making sure that small businesses don't get completely blown out of the water with horrible results, because obviously if you trust Google and Google does a terrible job for you, you're never coming back again. That said, when you give up control to Google or to anyone else for that matter, you're probably giving up some efficiency as well. So that small business, you know, I guess you could say I'm biased in this sense, but that small business would probably be better off working with an agency or an expert and paying a little bit extra to have that agency do the work for them. You know, as Google takes away some of the tools that experts can use to get an advantage over their automation, that opportunity goes away for those small businesses. So, you know, we're starting to come to a world where the incentives to go with an expert are becoming less and less as Google automates and as Google takes away some of the functionality.
Yeah, no, I mean, I certainly agree with you there as well, and that why would you actually go to someone for advice if that's the person that you're spending money with? It doesn't seem logical, really. So going to a third party.
Right, it's having the fox guard the hen house, right? I mean,
exactly. Yes, I was thinking of a wolf, but I guess
yeah, wolf would be appropriate too. Yeah.
So another then train of thought is if so many businesses are actually deciding to advertise with Google, does that mean not that there are perhaps other opportunities that could be more financially beneficial out there rather than actually using the Google network at the moment?
I think that's potentially true. I mean, I think one thing you can say for sure about the Google network is that it's a very efficient network in the sense that the price that you're paying for a click is the result of a marketplace of most of the available advertisers who would be interested in that click. So the opportunity to arbitrage Google today is pretty much gone. Again, 10 years ago, there were opportunities to buy keywords that a lot of people hadn't yet discovered, and you would get them for 5% of the actual value. Today, the value is 99%. And I often tell people that, you know, really to be successful on Google, there's a variety of non-search engine marketing related tests that you have to go through before you decide to advertise. And those would be things like, do you have a great competitive website? Do you have competitive economics to your competitors? Do you have an offer that's as good as your competitors? Is your landing page as good as your competitors? And if all those things aren't true, because it's an efficient market, you're probably going to lose money. Now, to answer your question about are there opportunities outside Google, absolutely. The biggest opportunity right now is Facebook advertising. Facebook has done a phenomenal job of creating ad products that really drive great ROI for companies. And in many cases, Facebook presents a better opportunity than Google, not only because it's not quite as efficient, but because the nature of why people search on Google makes it that if you're selling a new mousetrap, no one's ever going to search for your product, and the only way to sell it is to go to something like Facebook or like a display network, something of that nature. So I'm very bullish on Facebook, although it is becoming more expensive every day. Other networks, there is a whole concept of retargeting, which Google does offer, but there are companies like AdRoll that offer retargeting outside of Google's network. And I think that the other area that I'm interested in is native advertising. Right. Companies like Outbrain and Taboola and Yahoo Gemini that are starting to offer content marketing opportunities that are very cheap on a cost per click basis, and for the right type of client can drive very meaningful ROI.
Okay, and is it any more challenging to actually measure the effectiveness of those native advertising opportunities, or you're only talking about text clicks there?
It is more challenging to measure effectiveness, especially because in the world of native advertising, the rule is that you have to have 2 clicks before you get to a commercial page. So unlike paid search, where I can have an ad and I can immediately send them to a page that says buy now, native advertising has to go to a page that seems as more of an advertorial without a strong call to action, and there can be links from that site to your eventual purchase page. So that makes it a little harder, and sometimes you have to take a little bit of a leap of faith that you're driving awareness that's driving a sale and not just direct purchases. That said, the native advertising platforms have been coming out with pixels and with reporting interfaces that will enable you to actually see the ROI directly from your campaigns. And there are advertisers, generally speaking, in broad consumer channels like finance, consumer finance, that are seeing direct ROI from native advertising campaigns.
Okay, so I mean, obviously you're providing paid advertising services at 3Q Digital. Do you think that in the future agencies will be even more important to actually help to manage those services on a client's behalf, or can you see more and more of that management being done in-house in the future?
Well, I'm biased, obviously, so you know, I hope that there's a place for agencies in the future. The way that I think about it actually is, what we're seeing in online marketing is severe fragmentation, and the fragmentation is a huge target audience and do quite well. Today, we have Google, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, video, mobile, tablets, Internet of Things, who knows what else is coming. And my argument is that there are very few in-house agencies or in-house teams that can handle all of those. So you may decide that as an in-house team, you can hire up people to do paid search. And you hire 2 or 3 people to do paid search, and you tell your agency, I don't need an agency anymore. But then what are you gonna do about Facebook? What are you gonna do about Twitter, about YouTube, about Pinterest, about, you know, whatever the next thing that comes along? So I think that the role of agencies in the future is going to be to be a helper to in-house teams. So the in-house teams are going to pick what they want to work with agencies to pick what they can't do or they don't know how to do. And I think that's where there will be continued importance for agencies.
Okay, so that's sensible that if there are so many different advertising opportunities out there and that's only increasing, that you get an agency to actually handle that on your behalf if you can afford it. But what about a different form of marketing, content marketing? Would you say that content in general ideally should be done in-house because people who are writing that content maybe know of the brand, of the products, of the service themselves, or is that something that can be outsourced to an agency as well?
It's always challenging to outsource your voice as a company. So you have to be very careful about doing that. I mean, I know there was a famous case of I believe it was Chrysler that outsourced its Twitter feed to an agency, and the agency, someone in the agency, for some reason, posted in Chrysler's name, "People in Detroit are horrible drivers," and I think they used it. It wasn't the word "horrible" that they used, and obviously that's not a good representation of the voice of Chrysler. So I think that I would say it'd be very challenging to say 100% outsource your content marketing to an agency. That said, content marketing is part art and part science. So deciding what types of articles to write for maximum impact from an SEO perspective, deciding how to optimize those pages, both in terms of the content itself and also the technical optimization, deciding what partners to work with if you want to do content marketing on native platforms, etc. That's all stuff that you could try to do in-house, but again, going back to my general theory that you can't do everything in-house, that's something that would be perfectly legitimate to work with a third party to help with.
Okay, and now thinking about what's going to happen over the next 12 months or so, obviously you've mentioned that more recently Facebook have perhaps become a little bit more expensive. Google are possibly even more expensive than that, depending on what market you're in and how many competitors you have. What other opportunities do you think are there likely to be over the coming 12 months?
Well, I think there's still an opportunity in mobile writ large. So, Google and Facebook are the lion's share of mobile traffic right now, especially if you're looking at mobile app installs. Most people would say that 50 to 60% of the mobile app install ecosystem is going to be driven by Facebook. That said, there's still a lot of fragmentation in mobile. There are plenty of mobile networks, whether it's an InMobi or Millennial or TapAd, something like that, that are still sourcing traffic at a very low price, bundling it, and then selling it to advertisers. So given that more than 50% of actual time spent on internet devices is now mobile, but from a percentage of spend for advertisers, the actual spend on mobile is probably, I think it's 25%, 20%. There's obviously an arbitrage opportunity there. So for the next 12 months, if you have a mobile optimized site, or if you have an app, being able to get either installs or mobile traffic at well below what that traffic's actually worth is a huge opportunity. Beyond that, I think there are still some opportunities to optimize on Google Display Network, and I think that there are still some opportunities to make portions of Facebook work at an efficient price. We haven't really talked about Twitter. Twitter is still figuring things out in terms of their ad platform. I think that there will come a point in time when they figure out the right ad unit that actually works really well, not just for brands, but for direct response companies. And when that ad unit comes out, which I wouldn't be surprised if it came out in the next 12 months, there's going to be an opportunity there to invest in and harvest a lot of volume at a very affordable price.
I was actually on my Twitter app on my iPhone just a few days ago, and I remember seeing their click to install an app advert. So you had a couple of tweets, and then below that you had your click to install app, and then you could crawl through different other apps to actually install. And it seemed quite a nice experience. I wasn't upset that it was an advert that was taking me away from my tweet reading experience. So it's a tough one, advertising, I guess, on mobile, if you have a brand that actually people want to advertise on, because you don't want to actually take away from that user experience, and obviously the screen is only a certain size.
Yeah, it's challenging. I mean, I think I don't think anyone has figured out the perfect solution to how to represent your brand on mobile. I think that people are starting to come around to the notion that first of all, the definition of success on mobile is not the same as the definition of success on desktop. So getting someone to just buy something right away from seeing a mobile ad is unlikely to happen. But we know that from our own experience as users, but also from the data, people are spending a lot of time on their mobile phones. And if you can create an experience that is mobile friendly, that talks about your brand, and then preferably if you can start to set up cross-device tracking to see if that person ends up visiting your site from a desktop the next day, or even comes into your retail location, you can start to see how your brand can be won or lost on mobile. So another way to look at it is if you're not building out a great brand experience on mobile, you're reducing consumers' confidence that you're a forward-thinking company. So we're getting to the point where, just as in like 2002, if you remember way back when you went to some big brand's website and it was horrible, you started to wonder, do I really believe in this company if their website, doesn't even load? That's where we're at with mobile. So, I would say like there's two parts to the equation. One is, track everything properly, and you will start to see effectiveness. And the second is it's table stakes now. It's not a matter of, well, I don't really, the traffic hasn't really converted for me, so I'm not going to invest in my mobile experience. If you don't do that, you're really sending the wrong message to potential customers.
One thing that you mentioned there was cross-device tracking. So I'd just like to explore into that a little bit more with you. Is there any particular tracking solution that you recommend in order to try and achieve that successfully?
There are a ton of third-party companies right now that are trying to solve that. And the conclusion that I'm coming to is you sort of have two choices. One is you can stitch together some of these third parties. And so there are some attribution companies like Convertro, which is a company that we use, recently acquired by AOL, that do a pretty good job of what's called probabilistic attribution, which is looking at the cookies on your device and on your desktop, matching them and saying, oh, this is the same person. And there's a variety of those companies that are working there. But I actually think what's going to end up happening is the cross-device challenge is going to be solved by Google, Facebook, one of the two, or both of them. So Google and Facebook have what would be known as deterministic tracking, which is that you're logged in to your Gmail account on your mobile device, and then you go back to your desktop and you're also logged into your Gmail account, and they can match them with 100% certainty. And I think we're going to end up in a world where, as an advertiser, you're going to choose a tech stack, and that could be Atlas by Facebook and what they're building there, or it could be the Google Analytics platform and the DoubleClick platform. And you're going to be able to look at cross-device mainly from a deterministic perspective based on either Google or Facebook data. And like I said, right now there's a slew of companies that are offering third-party solutions, and we're exploring a bunch of them. But at the end of the day, this is, unfortunately, for those companies like Google or Facebook, is going to be coming out on top.
It's an interesting situation. I mean, I think the two big areas there are cross-device tracking, and also you touched on attribution as well. And I come from an SEO background, and it's for an SEO and for a business who's actually focusing on generic keyword phrases rather than actually brand keyword phrases to bring in traffic. Mostly that type of traffic finds out about the business fairly early stages and are unlikely to make a purchase immediately. So it's likely to be 3 or 4 clicks or visits away from actually making a purchase. So to define the value of that SEO visitor is very tricky when the majority of advertising tracking or traffic value tracking is done through last click.
Absolutely. And someone actually literally asked me this yesterday. They said, well, do you recommend last click? And I said, well, no. I said, well, then what do you recommend? And I said, well, that's not as easy an answer. I mean, I think what we can say with certainty is that if all you're doing is last click attribution, you are missing a lot of traffic sources or not giving proper credit to a lot of traffic sources. And David, your example is a perfect example of that. I often tell people, like, if someone searched for your brand term, let's say it's digital marketing radio, maybe something that's let's call it Coca-Cola, something that's not a standard English term. Someone types in Coca-Cola into Google, and then they go and buy a six-pack of Coca-Cola. Well, they had to have found out about the word Coca-Cola from somewhere. They didn't just randomly decide in their head, I wonder if there's a company called Coca-Cola that sells soda. I'm just going to type that in. And that's what you're doing if you're giving LastClick all the credit. You're assuming that this is the only way that they found out about your company. They just magically typed in your name, or they, et cetera. And now and there may be instances in non-brand keywords or where that is the case. But what we know, and what's very intuitive if you think about it, is there are a lot of frequently there are a lot of decision points that come before someone makes a purchase, and that can be starting with generic keywords and getting more granular, seeing an ad on Facebook, watching a TV commercial, etc. And the challenge is, now that we know that LastClick is not the best solution, what is the best solution? And there's a variety of attribution companies out there. A lot of them will do what they call a custom regression analysis when you sign up with them, which is they'll actually look at your traffic and they'll say, well, we've looked at all your traffic patterns, and it turns out that these touch points are very influential, and these touch points, it doesn't matter if they come there or not, they're still going to convert. And so what ends up happening is the people will generally create a model that they think is best for your business. And I think that the key thing is not to let the perfect get in the way of the good. Having some sort of multi-touch model is better than having a LastClick model, but it's not going to be perfect. You're never going to have 100% certainty. And unfortunately, another article that I wrote not long after that article you read was titled "Mo Data, Mo Problems," and that's kind of the nature of our world today, which is it was really easy when all we had to do was think about LastClick, and now we have to go to our VPs or to our CEOs and start to argue with them as to whether we have the right attribution model. We didn't have to deal with that in the past, but it's kind of a good thing that at least that we're talking about it.
Yes, yeah. At least the majority of progressive CEOs accept that LastClick is possibly not the right way to do things, and that's more evolved than things were a few years ago.
Absolutely, I think that's right.
Well, I'm sure we can carry on talking about these kind of subjects for a long time, but let's move on over to the second section of our discussion. So that focuses more on your thoughts on where digital marketing in general has been and where it's heading. So starting off with
software I couldn't live without.
So what software do you currently use in your business that if someone took away from you, it would significantly impact your marketing success?
Well, I'll start with Excel because I just love Excel, but let's not forget Excel because it is so amazing.
Not Google Sheets yet.
What's that?
Not Google Sheets yet. No.
No, it's not. I'm not ready for that. Software I couldn't live without. It's a good question. I would say, anything in the analytics realm is the stuff that I find most fascinating. So, frankly, I like Google Analytics quite a lot. I like Omniture as well, but for most of our clients, I feel like Omniture is a Ferrari and they only need a Chevy. So I would say that would be one area that'd be very interesting to me, that I'm very passionate about. Other software,
Well, here's a slightly more challenging question in relation to that. What piece of software don't you use, but you've heard good things about and you intend to try at some point in the near future?
Well, that I don't use, I would intend to try in the future. I'll tell you, I think that the area that we have yet to make an investment in is in the area of DMPs, data management platforms. And the concept there is essentially being able to collect cookies and personal information and restore it and use information about your consumers across multiple channels and platforms. And we have been investigating that for a long time. I believe that that having additional information gives you a huge advantage in marketing. I call it information asymmetry. So if I know something about a user that you don't know, and I'm able to use that across multiple channels, that should give me an advantage. We've looked at a lot of platforms to date, and we haven't found one that just blows us away so far. I feel like in the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to make that investment, and I'm hoping that that's something that I'll be excited about.
Okay, great stuff. Well, I'm moving on to.
I wish I would have.
I'd like you to look back at the very first day that you're involved in trying to market a business online. What didn't you do so well? What do you wish that you would have done differently?
Oh man, there's a lot of things. Number one, I wish I had started doing what you're doing right now, which is building sort of my personal brand / thought leadership earlier on. I've been in the space since 2000. I started my own blog probably in 2005. Had I started it a couple years earlier, I think I would have had just a lot more, like I said, personal brand, a lot more ability to sort of get things done that I wanted to get done. I take a lot. I believe that thought leadership is crucial to any agency. And so had I done it a couple years earlier, I think my agency would have been more successful. So that's one thing that I would definitely say that I wish I'd done when I started. I think probably the other thing would be building more foundational process around how I did things. In the early days of online marketing, there was so much opportunity that it felt like stopping to actually build best practices wasn't the best use of my time. So I was kind of just flying by the seat of my pants, and I was literally working till like 11 p.m. every night, just uploading keywords and making bid changes and whatnot. And I think if I had to do it over again, I would have stopped for a minute and said, let's spend some time and let's build a process and structure here so that it's replicable to people that are beneath me. And now in my agency today, I have plenty of process. I mean, I've learned my lesson there, but looking back 10 years ago, I think that's something I could have done better.
That's great tips there. Thanks for sharing that. So moving on to
the this or that round.
So this is the quick response round. 10 quick questions and just 2 rules here. Try not to think about the answer too much, and you're only allowed to say the word both on one occasion. So ready to go?
Both. Oh, I already messed up.
Yeah. No more. No.
Okay.
Email or Twitter?
Email.
Audio or video?
Video.
Affiliates or display advertising?
Display.
Facebook or Google Plus?
Facebook.
Online press releases or one-on-one relations?
One-on-one.
Paid search or SEO?
Sorry, I missed the paid search, or what was the other one?
Paid search or SEO?
Both.
Email contact form or telephone number?
Telephone number.
Website or app?
Website.
Social subscriber or email subscriber?
Email subscriber.
And local marketing or global marketing?
Global.
You got through that, all right. So why was Facebook so much fun? Facebook, was that because you're just not liking Google Plus?
Well, you know what they say, if you want to hide a dead body, put it on Google Plus.
How many dead bodies have you hidden? No.
Yeah. I think that's a question for Siri. I think Siri will answer that question, actually. I just think Google itself has given up on Google Plus, and Google Plus is really more of a means of collecting information than it is for people to actually share information. And I would expect that in the next, let's call it 2 to 3 years, Google will just completely close down Google Plus as a social network. It just hasn't worked.
Well, let's hope that Google keep Google Hangouts on air, because I'm liking that.
It's a good tool. That's one they can keep. That's a keeper.
The $10,000 question.
If I was to give you $10,000 and you had to spend it over the next few days on a single thing to grow your business, what would you spend it on, and how would you measure success?
I would spend it on lookalikes derived from custom audiences on Facebook. So using my best customers, uploading them via email, and then letting Facebook find people similar to them to market to. How would I measure it? I think it depends on what my objective would be. Most likely what I would try to do would be to try to get people to sign up for a newsletter or to download a white paper. So just building a nurturing relationship with someone, and the metric would be a CPA, cost per acquisition, based on one of those success metrics.
My number one takeaway.
Well, David, you've offered a lot of great advice in our conversation, but what would you say is the number one takeaway? What's the single most important step that businesses need to take away and implement things within what they're doing at the moment?
At a high level, I think that the takeaway is follow your customer. and I would just break that down by saying that whether you're a business or a B2B or B2C company, people are using multiple devices and they're on multiple channels, and you need to figure out where your customers are and not be beholden to a specific channel or a specific device, but understand the customer journey and then set up your marketing to reach them where they're actually visiting on the internet.
Great advice. Well, you've offered a lot of nuggets there, so thank you, and that takes us to the end of our discussion. So thank you, so much for everything that you've said there and shared with us. What's the best way for our audience to find out more about you and what you do?
Sure. So the website is 3Q Digital, the number 3, the letter Q, digital.com. I'm on Twitter at Rodnitzky, RODNITZKY. And feel free to reach out, and love to connect with people.
Wonderful. Okay, and I'll include links to everything that you've mentioned there on the show notes at digitalmarketingradio.com. So thank you again, David.
Thank you, David. You have a great name and a great show.
You've got an even better name.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time on. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.